Welcome back to another typical PNW Guy YouTube video. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite war time periods that really has a big impact on the evolution of the M4 as it is today. And that would be the GWOT era. Now, what is the GWOT era? Well, it's the General War on Terror. And that came about after 9/11, 2001. So if you're old like me, you understand that. If you're young, well, that's when the trade tower situation happened. And then we went into the Middle East, starting in Fallujah, and moved on from there. Now, when we first started off, we had a bunch of M16s. Usually they're 20 inches with the A2 carry handle. And then we kind of learned that those things are way too big for the Humvees, for room clearing, for going through towns, stuff like that. So kind of pushing through all that is kind of how we came up with the modern day M4 and all of its variants. Now, I do have some stuff out on the table to kind of go over. Now, in front of you in the back is my M4A1 or the Block 1 clone. Everything's clone correct besides the muzzle device because at first I wanted to run a suppressor. Then I realized it was too long. Kind of like how the military found out that it was going to be too long. But from the M16, they started using these when the dots came out. So it is a gooseneck mount. Allowed you to put the optic up here. And imagine it looking something like this. And you could mount an aim point out there. And that was, part of the evolution. Eventually, we came to stuff like the aim point, which that's another reason why I love the GWOT era, is because aim point and surefire actually came out on the market. Before that, it was literally just iron sights. So with that, we got all of the carry handles removed. They kind of did like the detachable thing for a while, but then we got like the aim point. This is a PRO, but comp M2, comp M3, you got the ACOGs, you got the LCANs, you got all these different things coming out on the market. Eventually the EOTech. And with that, you had your Colt, 723, 733s. So the Car 15. They were pretty much just taking whatever they had and shortening it. They were trying to figure out, the best routes. And then they ended up taking the uppers and turning them into Mark 18. So, 10.3, 10.4 inch barrels. And it's pretty cool because you had stuff like this. So this is a Colt N1 stock with a cheek riser. You had battery tubes on the back. There's just interesting stuff like this to get rid of the A2 stocks. And then eventually you come into what they call the waffle stock. So, it's got little waffle prints, which is kind of the stereotypic stuff. You came into the quad rails, like I mentioned before, instead of the glacier guards or the smooth hand guards, kind of like you see in Black Hawk Down and movies like that. And then, vertical grips, people thought, you could handle it like this and whatnot. And then we learned, C-clamp, whatever. So there's that. And then you have big Chongus lights. So you had the Surefire 660, that's a 952V, so V for vampire, so technically it should work in the night. That one seized up, so that one doesn't. But funny thing is this little micro light has the same power as that. Just that has way worse battery life. You can't really see it, but sling mounts up underneath the front sight base, got changed, stuff like that. We started implementing backup iron sights because optics at that point weren't really reliable. Batteries would die very quickly. glass would break, all that stuff. So we still run backup iron sights, but anymore it's just kind of like a worst case scenario. And then, we had metal mags. This one's just a coated one from Junkyard Ops, but we had the metal mags, and then we started working our way into P mags, and we're on Gen 3 right now. I think the Marines are starting to get the T mags. Now there's 2 generation of those. First generation sucks. Second generation, which came out almost right after the release date, those are better. But it's really just an era from 9/11/01 to pretty much 9/11/22, 23, where we're pretty much just steamrolling through the Middle East, general war on terror. So wherever terrorists were, we were going there. And we moved from these big Chungus 20-inch A2 rifles down to the typical lightweight M4. Now, I don't have any IR devices, but they would have an IR device on top or on the side. But this is kind of like your typical stuff you'd see kind of pushing through the years. And I just wanted to kind of talk about it. It triggers my tism, so to speak. And thankfully Brownells has a whole bunch of their retro line stuff, so you can kind of get like the modern metallurgy, modern barrel twists, while still getting all like the old retro profiles, barrel profiles, stuff like that. So matter of fact, I always watch Black Hawk Down around October 3rd, 4th, 5th. And this year I decided I wanted to do a Hooten clone upper. So M16 profile, A1 carry handle, C7 receiver. And that was really the start of General War on Terror, in the 90s, with Gothic Serpent, with Desert Storm, all that stuff. So, yeah, anyways, guys, I appreciate it. Be sure to check out Brownells. I'll have a coupon code in the description. And what's your favorite era? Like, I absolutely love the GWOT era. I have a plate carrier. It's a flak jacket, but, from that time period, as you can see, I got all these random bits and bobs that I eventually find on eBay or local or surplus store, pawn shops, whatever. Just like silly little stuff like the QRP1 mount. Like it just makes me happy. So let me know in the description, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming along the journey with me. I will have a blog up if you made it this far on Tumblr. Just search typical PNW guy. That'll be out Monday morning. Same time as this video, which will have way more information. So if you'd rather read than listen, then by all means go there and do that. But as always, guys, I appreciate it. Peace, and I'll catch you on the next one.